floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me firstly to thank the United States, Britain and France for convening this special session and our briefers here today. Since the beginning of the current war in Gaza, Israel has had to fight to defend itself, not only on one front, but on 7 fronts. Attacks on Israel have been launched by Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shiite militias from Iraq and Syria, the Houthis from Yemen, and by Iran directly. All these 7 fronts have one thing in common. They were activated by a mastermind in Tehran who financed, trained, and armed its proxies to fight the Jewish state. In the north, we face the terror army of Hezbollah, which has been built up by Iran since 1979 and possesses today more than 150,000 rockets. Hezbollah has launched since October 7th more than 6,500 rockets, 1,100 anti-tank missiles, and more than 250 explosive drones on the people of northern Israel. In the south, we face attacks launched by the Houthis, whose military arsenal grew in the last years thanks to the weapons and training provided by Iran and Hezbollah. Thus, the little brother of Hezbollah tried to overshadow the big brother, and in the last few years has targeted many countries in the Middle East. We still remember its attacks on Abu Dhabi with explosive drones and the thousands of ballistic missiles it shot at Saudi Arabia. In the last few months, the Iranians directed their newest proxy, the Houthis, to increase terror activity and to obstruct the shipping in the Red Sea and launch attacks against Israel. Mr. President, since the beginning of the Gaza war, the Houthis have launched more than 220 ballistic missiles and explosive drones at Israel. Last Friday, as was stated here already in the Council, in the early morning, an explosive drone launched by the Houthis from Yemen hit Tel Aviv, killing a civilian, 50-year-old Yevgeny Farber, and injuring 10 additional Israeli citizens. It hit a building just 100 yards from the U.S. consulate in Tel Aviv. The drone that was used in the attack was a Samad-3 UAV, an Iranian weapon that was upgraded to extend its flight range. The UAV was in the air for over 9 hours and flew over 2,000 kilometers. Please calculate what this range means, dear colleagues, to states and countries in the region and beyond. Think what this means if the Houthis are not stopped now. Israel decided to react in its inherent right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. From the beginning of the war, which began after the brutal Hamas attack of October 7th on Israeli civilians, the government made it clear: Israel will act against all those who attack us. Israel has no conflict with Yemen or its people. It is clear that the Houthis are acting on behalf of and in the name of radical Iranian ideology. They prove it with their symbols, statements, and actions. The Houthi flag is emblazoned with phrases in Arabic in red: death to America, death to Israel, and curse the Jews. This reflects their priorities and values. They have proved it with attacks on Israel and international shipping. Let me be very clear. The port of Hodeidah is not an innocuous port. Hodeidah is being used for terrorist purposes and therefore is a legitimate military target. The port of Hodeidah receives arms shipments directly from Iran, including the UAV that was fired at Tel Aviv. These are, in fact, pieces of Iranian military equipment that are assembled and used by the Houthis. The Houthis cannot cynically expect immunity for a port supplying their needs as they use it for military purposes. In terms of international shipping, the Houthis have closed the Bab el-Mandab Straits, thereby significantly lengthening global shipping trade routes with their threats and attacks. In recent weeks, they attacked a vessel in the Mediterranean Sea as well. No one in this room is immune from the effects of these attacks. Over 30% of international trade has been affected. Houthi militants have threatened or taken hostage mariners from over 20 different countries. I wish to thank the United States, Britain, France, and other members of the International Maritime Coalition, Prosperity Guardian, that was established to repel the Houthi attacks. I wish to restate and clarify: Houthi terrorism is part of the regional terrorist array operated by Iran, along with other proxies such as Hamas and Hezbollah. Iran is the head of the snake. It arms, trains, and finances the Houthis. The international community must increase the pressure on Iran and impose more crippling sanctions on Tehran. Iran must be stopped, as it continues to endanger the stability of the Middle East and the entire world. Israel will continue to protect its citizens against any threat, near and far. The attack by the Houthis, a proxy of Iran, crossed all the red lines, and after more than half a year of restraint in the face of the Houthi attacks, Israel was forced to strike in Yemen. The Houthis are a focal point for destabilizing the region and the international arena. The Houthis have recently started developing their activities in Iraq through cooperation with pro-Iranian Shiite militants. The repeated attacks by the Houthis on Israel and on ships in the Red Sea with weapons supplied to them by Iran constitute a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. This very council imposed sanctions on the Houthis, including travel bans and asset freezes in Resolution 2140 in 2014, and a weapons embargo in Resolution 2216 in 2015. These steps are welcome, but not sufficient, and we can so evidently see. This Council must do more. Israel calls on the Security Council to 1. Increase sanctions against Iran, 2. Improve enforcement of the existing sanctions against the Houthis and its leaders, and take the necessary preventive steps against Houthi targets. Visibly designate the Houthis as a terrorist organization as those who initiated the conflict. The Security Council must issue a harsh condemnation of the Houthis in the upcoming discussions of Yemen at the Security Council. It must condemn the destabilizing activities of the Houthis and support Israel's right to defend its territory and citizens. In defending ourselves against this Iranian terror axis, Israel stands on the front lines against a regime that threatens the entire Middle East and threatens the entire world. That is why all those who seek a more secure and stable Middle East should fully support Israel's actions against this terror axis in Yemen, in Gaza, in Lebanon, and elsewhere. To our enemies, do not doubt Israel's determination to defend itself. I thank you.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Djobnik signing off.